Hello class. In this video we're going to continue our work with linear functions, and we're going to talk about a specific form of some linear functions. The form is considered slope-intercept form. So if you remember earlier, I think in section 2.7 we had an equation 3x plus y equals 3, and we created a table here using this equation, right? I could sub in values for x, right? For example, I could put in 0 for x, and then I'd solve for y, and you see down here, when x is 0, your y turned out to be 3, so here's the ordered pair. And I could keep putting in different values. I could put in 1 and -2 and so on. I could put in all these values for x and then solve this equation for y. But we realized it was easier if we rewrote this equation in terms of y, right? So all I did was I rearranged this equation and I made it look like this. And this version of the equation is called the slope-intercept form because we're given a slope and we're given a y-intercept. So it says example 1, right? That's right here. Use the table to find the y-intercept and the slope of the line. So I just want you to remember the rules for y-intercept. So I took a moment to type the rules, right? To find the y-intercept, sub in 0 for x and solve for y. So looking at the table, if I put in x, right? If I make this x 0, my y is 3, right? So the y-intercept would be this 0, 3, okay? And the x-intercept, they don't ask for the x-intercept, but that's where I would sub in 0 for y, right? So here, this is where y is 0, and I'd solve for x, which would be 1, right? So again, they did not ask for the x-intercept, but I just want to mention the y-intercept would be the 0, 3, and the x-intercept would be the 1, 0, right? Because we're subbing in 0 for y, and we find x. And on the top one, we sub in 0 for x, right? And we find y, okay? So again, the y-intercept would be 0, 3, okay? Next, it says find the slope. Well, we know the rule for the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we can use any ordered pairs. I can use 0, 3, 1, 0, right? I could use the 2, -3, and 3, -6. It doesn't matter which ordered pair I use, but I'm going to select these two, the 0, 3. So I'm going to do 3 minus 0 over 0 minus 1, and I end up with 3 over -1. So my slope would be -3. So we've answered all of the questions here, right? We found the y-intercept, that was 0, 3, and we found the slope, which was -3. Okay, so let's keep moving. So now with this same equation, 3x plus y equals 3, 3x plus y equals 3, we were able to find the y-intercept and the slope from a table, but the question is, can we also find the y-intercept using a graph? And the answer is yes, so let's do so. So the slope of this line can be found by looking at our rise over our run, and the y-intercept is the point where we cross the y-axis, right? Where do we cross the y-axis, right? Here's the y-axis, okay? Right, so I just typed it out. The y-intercept is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. So let's take a look. In terms of our rise over run, you can see our rise is down, it looks like 3, right? 1, 2, 3. And then our run is over 1. Looks like we're counting by ones here, right? So we went down 3 and over 1. So let me write that. Oops. Here we go. So our rise we went down 3 units, and we went to the right 1 unit. So we still got -3. And the point where we cross the y-axis is at 0, 3. Right? So our y-intercept is 0, 3. Our slope is -3, which is what we got in the earlier problem, right? Up here, we found the y-intercept was 0, 3, and the slope was -3. The point is, I can find the y-intercept and slope from a table or from a graph. And if I find it from a table, we might call this the numerical method or a numerical way. Right? So when you hear numerical, think table. So let's look at one more example on the next page. Right, I'm going to give you the table, and I'm going to ask you to give me the slope and the y-intercept. I know the answers are here, so I'm going to erase these answers so you don't see it. Oops, I went too far there. I'm going to erase the answers, and then maybe you want to pause the video and see, can you find the slope and the y-intercept by just looking at the table? Okay, and I'll pause the video. Okay, so when we think of the y-intercept, just remember, as an ordered pair, it's always going to be 0, something, right? Because if I had a graph, no matter where my graph crosses the y-axis, right, if this is the y-axis, the value for x is always going to be 0, right? Because this point here would be 0, something, 0, something. So the value of x is always going to be 0, and the value of y, well, we have to find from the table. So when x is 0, my y is -5. Okay, so the y-intercept is 0, -5. Okay, and then for the slope, we know that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is our slope, which is m. So let's pick 2 points. I will pick this point and this point. So remember, if this is my x and this is my y, we subtract the y's. So I could do -5 minus, ooh, you got to be careful there. It's a -3, right? It's minus -3. See, I almost made a mistake there. And that's going to be over 0 minus 1. So this becomes -2 over -1, which equals 2, right? Negative over negative is 2. So m equals, oops, I wrote 3. M equals 2. Okay, so we've answered everything, right? The slope of the line is m equals 2, or just 2, and the y-intercept with this 0, -5. All right, I hope that helps. This is the first video for section 2.9. I will create a new video to help finish the rest of this packet momentarily. Thank you for watching.